Excellent. We're glad it's recording so that our folks who can't be here with us today get to be a part of our practice. It really was affirming during the yoga retreat to just see how powerful community can be. And even if you're not talking to one another, just that sense of showing up together. I mean, I think it can be that way for a concert and other stuff too, where there's something powerful that nourishes us as human beings about being in community and sharing experiences with people. And I think it can be very difficult for people who are, maybe working completely from home right now. They're doing yoga from home. That kind of sense of isolation can come. So I'm really glad that you guys are able to be here today and that we can kind of reach out via the camera to folks who might do this at home at a later date. So it's funny, right before I turned the camera on, I mentioned that I was very grateful for something. That actually is kind of our little theme this week, is talking about gratitude. And we've all heard a lot about it in recent years. There's so many books out on it now, and there's talk about, just gratitude journaling and so on. And I'm so glad. I'm really glad that this is now just a part of normal conversation. It's not just people who are going on self-help retreats or just people who are in yoga or something like that, or therapy. There's been so much wonderful science that's shown what happens in the brain and the nervous system when we are having an experience of feeling gratitude. What's really cool about our feelings, you're like, really? There's something cool? Yes. They're like, one thing that is very, very cool about our feelings is that we can have the experience of gratitude, of sadness, of anger, of fear, etc., without even being in an event. All we have to do is conjure up that. And that to me is really amazing. And it is reminds me of the power of our imagination and of our thoughts. And so if we can recall something that makes us feel a thing, that's profound. And knowing that, then we want to be good stewards of our thoughts and of our energy. And so this is one reminder of why it would be so valuable if our mind is dwelling on things that are really bringing us down, maybe fear, maybe a sense of lack, maybe we're worried about how we're going to pay our bills this month. Our car broke down. We're like, oh, I hadn't expected a $700 repair, right? It's so easy to get focused on that thing in this moment that feels horrible and devastating or what have you. And I'm obviously choosing something that is relatively undevastating versus, say, finding out that you or your beloved has terminal cancer, right? So just even working with my car repair, the amount of feelings that we can have in our body, and then how quickly by shifting our lens and maybe lifting it up a little bit from this moment of that piece of news, that we can then really be able to shift our lens to being grateful, to recognizing I am safe, I am whole, I am well. Yes, this is inconvenient, and maybe I've got to put $700 on a credit card, which I didn't want to do, right? But I'm okay. And I think the problem with so much of our imagining when we go on, we always have the O and it's followed by a word that starts with S or F, or right. When we have those moments, even though they aren't crisis, our body will receive it as such if that's not where our thinking is at. And so knowing that we can really choose to spend more time in, whenever that is happening, lifting our gaze again and again and having our lens on what we're grateful for. So the conversation about listing what you're grateful for, I do think that's wonderful because it does put your lens on it. So if every morning and maybe you aren't a journaler, maybe it's just when you're doing your 3 breaths with awareness, which I know we all do every morning. Maybe then it's just listing, maybe it's 3, pick whatever it is that you are grateful for, because the closer it is to the surface of your awareness, the easier it is going to be to tap into that when you witness, oh man, I'm really bringing myself down into the negative here. It's, to be clear, I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish. Sometimes we need to spend time thinking about what's hard. That can be a very important part of feeling it and maybe even resolving it. Sometimes it's about going back and resolving something that's old that we've been hauling around with us. Sometimes it's our fear of the future, and we need to look at that. But it can be very important to just be conscious about how to not dwell there in a way that's thoroughly unproductive. It just brings all of our energy down, right? So gratitude. And one of the things I think we can be most grateful for is simply being alive, right? Being here on this planet. I've really been enjoying noticing when I'm going outside, weather's so changeable here in Wisconsin this time of year. And from the evening to, into the early morning to afternoon, so many changes. And what I've really enjoyed noticing is whenever I'm walking out from my house to say the car to put something in it or to take a driveway walk, the texture of the earth is completely different, right? From just rock hard, maybe slippery, to a little squishy to like, whoa, real squishy. And I appreciate those moments because it reminds me to be present, to notice what's happening beneath my very feet. And so with that, actually, we're going to do a little walking meditation today. And it's very simple, but it's just an opportunity to tune into the sense of being here on the earth and being in our feet, which we know from all of our work we do together in yoga, the feet is the foundation for our building, for our structure, right? So it's wonderful to become more aware of that, but also the earth that is sort of kissing our feet all the time, touching, and we touch back. Something else about gratitude that is really interesting. Someone shared this with me and it really struck me. So there's one kind of range of feeling I might have when I'm listing what I'm grateful for. There's another range of feeling that to me is much more intense, much more activated, that I will have either if I'm telling a story or perhaps you're telling me a story about something you're grateful, some beautiful experience that happened. And I've actually talked about this before because it was just such a poignant experience. But there was a country song that was on for a while, and they were playing it on a whole variety of stations because I know my sister heard it too. And we both were like, oh my God, yeah, I cried too. I was in my car bawling. And it's that classic formula where each verse sort of unveils a new part of the story. And there's always the kind of loop back where you find out, what was really going on. And there's always some good Samaritan part of it, right? And it's this, woman who was stranded by the side of the road, and this guy who I think was a trucker, but, at the end of his long day stopped to help. And she tried to pay him, and he's like, no, or whatever. And eventually, it kind of goes on and on. And I can't really remember exactly now, but he ends up going to a restaurant, and she's the waitress. And he ends up leaving her this big tip. And she, they don't know each other, but there's this recognition, right, of what's passed between them. And so he finds out later, or we find out later, the listener, I don't know that he ever finds out, that she and her husband had just fallen on hard times, and she's pregnant. She took this job, their car broke down, like, right, all the things. Oh my God. I mean, I've got goosebumps on my legs just talking about it, right? I know you're like, she is the biggest sap I've ever met. But I know you all, and I know I'm not far from the truth for some of y'all. It might not be that same story, but something like that. And so I want to remind us each and all the value, while we are also sharing with others in our community, because this is important, if we are experiencing fear or dread or stress, that's important to share too, because in those moments we can receive nourishment, empathy, sometimes even solutions, or just that recognition of like, hey, you're not alone and you're not crazy. It can also be incredibly valuable to share these other stories of these little things that happen in our life that made the difference for us, or maybe it's where we stepped in and made the difference for somebody. But that sort of gratitude sharing is really, really profound. So have fun seeing what you come up with this week. I will not be here next Tuesday morning. I'm going to be out of town. Jason and I are going to DC. His sister lives in Chevy Chase, and they're having his nephew's bar mitzvah. So it'll be my chance to be with his whole family, really. His parents are coming up from the Cape Cod and so on. So it'll be a wonderful opportunity for me to get to know his family better. So I'm very grateful for that because, we're all kind of far flung. So pretty cool. So let's get into our practice, shall we? Yeah. Come onto your back bodies and just get flat, get neutral, lay on down. And first inviting you in a few sighing breaths, because inside of that is the recognition, I am whole, I am well, I am safe. You might even have a moment of gratitude for yourself, for your tapas or resolve in getting here to the mat, choosing the sweetness of this time that is just for you. Nothing you need to know, nothing you need to do, nothing you need to accomplish. You're welcome to sigh anytime throughout our practice as you recognize the desire to move energy. For now, you can just simply close the mouth unless you're stuffy like me. Lightly connect the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth. The rest of the tongue and jaw and throat soft. We turn our gaze up and in towards that third eye. You might add Ujjayi, great sounding breath. And we begin recognizing the pattern of breath, the rising and settling waves. And of course, we're very interested in the pause between the breath waves. We'll be here for a few moments, just lounging around in this sweet awareness of our internal world. Notice that your mind has perhaps meandered. Call it back to attention to breath. Tether it to body sensation. Where do you feel fabric moving against your skin? The next time you are exhaling, at the end of the exhale, please hold out external breath lock. And while we are not in action during the breath lock, you might notice a lot of little physical impulses, little forms of tension, pressure. See if you can hold past that initial instinct to breathe. On the inhale, then hold it. Let's do another round. I love breath locks. I feel like they help slow everything down, my mental activity, the pace of life. When you've released your next breath lock, never rush to meet my words. You might reach arms overhead and begin organically stretching, rolling wrists, and maybe yawning, fake or real. And you might clasp one hand around a wrist and draw along upon it. Another. And then relaxing your arms by your side, put them into abdominal pumping. Enjoy a long inhale. Exhale, empty, hold out, and begin your pumping by drawing the belly towards the spine, then pushing out. So it's almost like you're sucking your abdomen in with no breath inside and no breathing. So you created this wonderful vacuum. And I hope you can feel how it allows you really to give yourself quite an amazing massage at that center body. We've been talking about gratitude in this moment. You might decide, yes, I am grateful for all the ways that my digestion is working well. Right? That I'm being nourished by the food that I eat. I mean, that is no small thing. When that feels complete, you might sigh, etc. And then we'll bring the right knee into the belly, release wind pose. Big belly breath. So you're expanding the abdomen against the thigh. Feet are flexed. So this is a great time to start being just really aware of those floppy things at the end of the legs. Shoulder heads are anchoring down. On the long inhale, when it comes, extending your legs straight up. And I invite you as you continue inhaling to point and flex and feel the effect in the leg. Feel the connectivity of your foot to your leg and all those muscles. On the exhale, and descend slowly. You reach the floor, melting completely. Then guiding the left knee into the abdomen, release wind pose. And I didn't mention it on the other side, but in addition to awareness of those feet, one of the more important things is the anchoring of the thigh, that floor leg. Notice if you push down through your thigh bone, press out through the heel, you might get a really different stretch through the hip flexors and so on. On a long inhale, when it comes, extending that leg, point and flex. And on an exhale, root and slowly descend. And relax. Then we're going to do a little bit of similar pointing and flexing, if you will, in our neck. So you're actually going to just take your chin up and back, feeling a long, I hope, stretch through that throat area, get really vigorous. Then bring the chin back and down into the throat. The head stays on the floor. Got it. Doing that a few times. And you might begin to feel some of the connectivity all the way into that upper and mid back, of course, up into the neck and connections around the occipital ridge. Yeah, and at some point, you might then just take a little side to side to kind of a lateral incline. Next, we're going to plant our feet for bridge pose, but we're going to do a little kind of breathing and pelvic movement before we come all the way up into whatever your version of bridge is. You can add a block or no. We're going to inhale slow, deep, and wide. Exhale, essentially compression, belly to spine, spine to floor. Squeeze the imaginary block. Feel that pelvis tilt up a little bit. On the inhale, relax and intentionally arch your back, tailbone tilting down. We did this recently, you may not have been here, but it's with breath, breath initiating motion. So exhaling again, belly to spine, spine to floor, squeeze the block, and you'll feel how your glutes respond, of course, right? You come. On that inhale, slowly lower down one rib at a time, and then arch the back. And we'll just do that a couple more times. So when we do this kind of movement through the pelvis, we are helping spinal fluid get pumped through the spine. And again, hopefully you're already feeling really alert at that upper end of the spine. Think of it like kind of unkinking the garden hose. The next time you're creating that exhale compression block squeeze, go ahead and lift the hips into your version of bridge. Please notice, if you go to your highest version, Do you feel pressure in the low back? If so, I'd like you to come down a little bit and find the place that just feels deliciously strong. We'll hold for another breath or two, working your upper arms down into the floor, raising the ribs will really accentuate the breath stretch. And then slowly descend. And we'll bring knees deeply into our belly, a little spine drop. Maybe you want to take those knees wide and baby. I love letting my body roll side to side in a happy baby. I really value the kind of massage I get through the low back in the area. We're going to be doing a little exercise in a moment. They'll get to that as well, I hope for you. At some point, you might decide to bring your feet towards the butt of the butterfly. You could do that with a windshield wiper. Some people might be like, oh no, I need to go to half straddle. That's what I need right now. So for the next half a dozen breaths or more, please find some places to explore the tension in the legs, hips, and back. So this next little exercise we're going to come into, it's a little bit reminiscent of bridge, but it's not bridge. It's quite different actually. We're only using one leg, and we're going to be rolling a little to the side. So what I'm going to be doing is lay down flat, then bring your right foot flat to the floor, like you would during bridge. And essentially, I'm going to ask you to simply kind of dig in through your heel of that right foot and press your hip away and let it roll to the left and let your torso and shoulders come along for the ride as much as feels natural. And then release, and we'll do it again. Press. And you're not letting that right leg flap all the way down, right? So it's and it doesn't have to stay exactly up where it was, but it's a mostly upright thing. You're pressing through that right heel to bring the hip up off the floor. It's like somebody wants to put something under your hip and you're giving it space. And as a result, your torso comes along for the ride. Is this making sense? Good. So just a couple more like that. Do about 10 each side. And I don't know about you guys and how tight you are or whatever, but I can totally feel this, not just in my glutes, the obvious side, but in those deep kind of lat connections to my hip and around the ribs, kidney area. Anybody else? Aha, not just me. Cool. I never know. Go ahead and straighten your right leg, plant the left foot, and begin your process of anchoring deeply down through that left heel, pressing the hip off the floor like somebody wants to put something under your hips. And just letting the torso and head go along. And talking on and off about twists and how important they are, our side body, and how important it is. And I'm hoping you can feel, in this experience, how you're getting to communicate with parts of the body that you don't maybe very often, but I would say are a huge participant in how well we move through the world, with how much balance and strength, how much support for the spine and safety, so that we aren't going to get injured when we go to, shovel compost or whatever you're about to get up to in the coming months. It's a great chance, of course, also to notice side to side difference. Just a couple more. Last one. And coming back to center. Let's come into our reclined pigeon. We'll cross right ankle on the left thigh. Heel is flexed. You might flap that knee a little bit before bringing the whole thing towards you. Hugging the right knee, and if you like, you can also be holding the foot, of course. And you're gonna play. You're gonna play with angle and depth, and of course, your breath. Not only send that breath down into the hip, but make sure you're allowing time for the full inhale so that that inhale wave is coming up the ribs, into the mid back, upper back, chest. Right? What a difference it makes to tune into that. Spend all the time you like on this side and then come into your experience on the other side. We're always curious, of course, is this side different? Tune in to this amazing body that you have. You're interested in subtlety and what it needs to get the best stretch. And you're deeply interested in the effect of breath on this pose. When that last one is complete, you might come into a little bridge or horse riding stance just as a nice kind of counter stretch, bending the body the other way. Got it. Then we're going to roll onto our side and simply press up onto hands and knees for table pose, or flip around, or whatever you got to do, depending. Intelligent hands, inhaling cow, tailbone tilts back, heart draws forward. Exhaling, tuck the tailbone. So treating these next few breaths like a massage experience. Really tuning into sensation, noticing what you need, making little adjustments, maybe getting organic, you might go a little side to side. On your next exhale, invitation to move to downward facing dog. And you might want to bring your hands forward a little bit of the table pose to give yourself a little extra room. Especially if you're tight in the hamstrings, it feels good. It allows you to really get a more integrity in the upper body, and then play with that stretch in the lower body when you're ready, pressing one heel towards the floor and the other. And then you might take it out wide, play there. You might come up on the balls of the feet and then press down through the heels. You might even decide to curl the top of the foot onto the floor and get a little stretch through that, kind of roll through the toes. Then as you're ready, walk the hands back to the feet, ragdoll. We're going to play in ragdoll with where our weight is distributed. I find I actually get a really great stretch regardless, but it's different. So sending your weight a little forward in the feet, a little backward in the feet. Again, noticing how that delivers a different stretch, right? Up into the calves, the hams. You guys look great. Everyone's really letting their head go. I love it. Let's take one more deep breath there. Emptying, emptying. On your inhale, sit to chair. We'll just hang out here a moment, kind of rising and settling. And then a long inhale, root and rise, glute squeeze, push into the earth with all four corners of the feet, all of your toes. Exhaling, resolving, prayer hands. Just that light kiss, one palm against the other. Tune in. This would be a lovely moment to express gratitude towards your body. Rolling out those wrists a moment. We're going to come right into some nerve flossing. So bringing those hands into prayer hands. Remember, shoulders are anchoring down. And you're just going to go side to side very slowly. And we're not going so far that it's taking our shoulder, right? So we're just staying very neutral through the shoulders. Really brings a lot of sensation into forearms and elbows. Do you guys have that too? Yeah. Get it in your pinky. go all the way from our fingers up through this whole line into the cranium. Coming back to center, just briefly rotate those palms down. Remember, flossing, it's just a good stretch. And then come on out. Marvelous. Well, so as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a little walking meditation today. I think what we'll do is I think we'll just go, we can kind of just leave. Do you know what I mean? We don't have to move mats. We've got a small enough group. We can just go through the area that's open so that people aren't having to move their stuff terribly much. Has anybody here done a walking meditation before? And I've never gone to, like, I know there are people who've studied with like Thich Nhat Hanh and whatever, where, you might do walking meditations for an hour or something. I've never done anything like that. But what I found is that, I find them a little bit off-putting because a lot of the times they're done very slowly. They don't have to be, and it could just be you're out walking your normal pace and you decide to be in a meditative quality. You're paying attention to your footsteps and your breath. And that actually I do a lot and I really like that. This is a little off-putting for me because we're doing it slow. And I actually found I'm somebody normally with really great balance, and I found that I feel like a little out of kilter. So I'm just talking about this in case you find yourself there too and think, oh, I'm not good at this or whatever. No, that's actually the point, is that you'll notice how your weight is shifting in your feet and in your body. So the point is not to do some sort of perfect, beautiful stride. We don't care. We don't care what it looks like. It's to be really in the moment and feel what you're feeling on your body. Actually, no, they've cleared stuff there. We could just make a whole circumference there and then we'll just weave right through. Actually, yeah, and Alona, if we just move your mat a little bit, then we'll just cut across here. This will be perfect. And it doesn't take a lot of space, but we're just using our little steps. Perfect. Does that make sense, everybody? All right, so I will give it a start. You can have your hands just by your sides. And we're going to go at about this pace, and whatever you want, you can kind of get in somewhere around the circle wherever you like. So as you're doing your walking meditation, you might add some of those basic points of awareness, like the light connection, tip of the tongue. You might notice the different parts of the foot that are in contact with the earth. You might notice the movement up into the leg that comes as a part of that stride. And of course, we can tune into our breath, slow, deep, and wide. And if you find that going the pace of the people in front of you just isn't working for you, and you want to emerge, you can certainly do that. We've got plenty of room. Inevitably, our mind will wander away from our body. I invite you to simply tune into it once more. And now I'm going to switch where we're going to have our pace each step aligned with. So if you're ready, it'll be the inhale in one step, and then exhale in the next. And in this, one of our main goals is to truly have breath initiating motion. Don't speed the breath up so that you can take the next step. Next time you have a heel touching the floor in front of you, pause with the toes up. So front foot, heel on the floor, toes up. Slowly get that foot flat. The next heel strikes, pause, foot up. And slowly through. Do that one more time, each foot. And continue as you were. Inhale, step, exhale. We talked about this before the meditation, but now bringing our attention to the idea of each footstep being a little kiss with the earth and you're being kissed back. This would be a beautiful moment to let your attention travel to imagining perhaps all of the potency in there, the grass seeds, flower bulbs, tree roots, nourishment. Next time your front foot lands on its heel, pause and step backward. Pause. Do it again. Bring that same heel forward. Back. Step one more time. And continue your pace. Remember which foot that was. The next time that other foot is coming forward, pause on that heel. Step back. Forward, pause on that heel. Step back. First time. As you're ready, release into your natural stride back to your yoga mat. So whatever that was for you, by the way, it was fine. It was perfect. It was gorgeous. I hope that it was meditative, that it was interesting. And that perhaps it even inspires just, again, I know a lot of us are walkers and we love to walk outside. That seems to be something that's very much shared in this community. So to perhaps bring a little bit of that into whatever next walk you take, whether it's, in the woods or just, again, out to your car or whatever it might be. Did anybody discover anything really different from foot to foot during this? Well, yes, Barb, who was recently out of a boot after foot surgery. Yeah, but that was interesting. But not painful, I hope. Yeah, good.
But it's balance in general, slowing down.
Yeah, your balance, you feel really wobbly and yeah, especially if you're taking small steps. And that's what I've noticed. I noticed it even just today, but I've noticed before too, is if I'm in a situation where I can walk slowly, but whatever my natural length step is, which I'm a short person, but I feel like it's longer than what is often being taken in kind of walking meditations. I feel like my balance is better, that I just move more naturally than if I'm taking little steps. So that might be participating too. Anything else? Thanks for playing with me. Since we're on our feet and we're just so intelligent with them right now, let's come onto our mats to the side. Let's face east. And as you begin to shift your weight side to side and straddle, please be very aware of your feet. And one of the things that I see consistently will challenge people in this is basically not being aware of the feet. That often we'll lose contact with either inner or outer foot. We want the whole foot in contact. Or the knee, if our feet aren't wide enough, the knee is going to try and go past the ankle and it will push the weight out onto the like pinky, etc. One way you'll know is if you look at your foot, both feet really, as you're in each position, they shouldn't look any different than when you were just standing. So they shouldn't be compromised, they shouldn't be folding or bending in any way. When you feel ready to pause and explore that inner thigh stretch, go for it. You might have hands up on thighs, you might be in a fold. I want you to notice the leg that is straight. Really think about anchoring through that foot. Notice how that extension increase the inner thigh stretch, right? It can really change it for you. Yeah, let's go to the other side, see what it's got. I haven't talked about jumping in a little while, but has anybody done me jumping? Yeah, cool. Expired. I hope I didn't expire. I inspired a little fat. Awesome. And coming back to center, placing hands on thighs, we're gonna come up with a cat back. Really think now about anchoring all 10 toes, like intelligent toes, like you have intelligent fingers, right? And standing in your jet airplane. So just bringing those palms forward, shoulders down, neck relaxed. I'd like you to find the most powerful and peaceful version of this that you can. So we feel really stable, but we're not like striving. Breath rising and settling. We're going to turn our right foot 90 degrees and settle into our warrior two. So reaching arms out from your heart, using again that anchored back foot to send the hips forward and down. And just floating on breath for a few rounds. Spiritual warrior, peaceful warrior. A sense of being grounded in what you know to be true and right, the ability to act or speak on it as needed with peace and clarity. On a long inhale, exalted warrior, reaching up and back, beautiful side body stretch. Exhaling, flow forward to lateral stretch, stretch the other side. Reaching long through that left arm up beyond the head, or maybe you like pulsing, kind of bending the arm and bringing it into you and then straightening it again. Eventually on exhale, simply fold into your straddle again. Going a little side to side or whatever feels juicy before big inhale. Big exhale, cat back, come on. Inhaling, sweeping the arms straight up. Exhaling, warrior two, left foot rotates 90. And sometimes we need to deepen our stance in order to get into the best version of this pose. And that back foot is anchored. You might even take a look at it and make sure that the toes aren't curling or that you're not letting your ankle rock out behind you. We want, again, firm, steady pressure straight down to that foot. You should feel pretty strong and stable. It'd be hard for someone to push you off your game. On a long inhale, exalted warrior. I like looking down. I find it's easier on my neck. Slowly forward lateral stretch, elbow back. Reaching long overhead. Is this side different? One more long inhale, exhaling, straddle, fold. Long inhale, exhaling, cat back. Inhaling, sweep up and hold, and begin to just reach alternatingly through one hand and the other. So I'm hoping to get a deep stretch through the front body. So I'm not going side to side, I'm straight up, but I'm emphasizing one arm reaching like it's in a pulley and then the other. And if it hurts to look up, just let your head be kind of relaxed into the arms. Lovely, and we'll release out behind us for Yoga Mudra. If you're feeling like your ankles need a rest, bring them in a little bit, but you can still keep it a little bit of a wide stance in case you want to add your fold. So we're intertwining those hands behind our back, bending the knees if you're going to go into the fold, please. Because this is not about the hamstring stretch. It's about getting upside down so that those arms can have the benefit of gravity stretch. Sometimes it takes just a little bit more room, whether using a sock or a strap, to give us our best stretch ever. And that just gets you to that freedom point. Yeah. Yeah, we want to have that feeling that our arms can get straight and that the shoulder blades can kind of come towards each other a little bit. And releasing. Come on up, bring your feet into neutral, roll through those ankle joints, roll through those wrist joints, and then let's love up our neck. Hands in our little collar behind the head. And whenever I'm doing anything like this, I'm not just standing knees locked, I'm in a little bit of an athletic stance. And in my core a little bit, because whenever I'm there, then the spine is safe and knows that it's safe. It's much more likely to give up some of its unnecessary tension up here where the neck and the head join. You can also bring your hands around the back of the head, thumbs at the occipital ridge, and begin to explore. You might be inspired from there to give yourself a big workout. Let's just see what's in there. And then we're gonna play with, again, a little more foot awareness in our tree pose. Something I want to point out, I often mention this sort of on the fly as we're in tree. The few times that I really kind of plucked it out like I am now and talked about it, I've had people say it really did help their posture quite a lot. And that is that this foot, well, a couple things. Once I've placed my foot in kickstand or up on the calf, I really want to be able to encourage this leg towards like 90 degrees out from the leg. Now, yours may or may not do that, but the way that's going to get there is actually by kind of a squeezing of the glutes a little bit forward, and it helps externally rotate the thighs, right? So what I don't want to do is be with my leg kind of straight forward like this and my foot gripping. I see that a lot. Like I'm balancing. And in the end, maybe that feels like it helps, but we're not actually getting into the pose. The other piece is the foot itself, okay? So ideally, once I've brought the foot up, if I'm doing that, I've got the toes kind of flared out, what we call yoga toes. So again, they're not just flat and floppy, they're not gripping around the leg, they're flared out. And what I want you to just practice, and you can kind of practice this for a moment here, is just, can you kind of be so alert and intentional that you can tap the floor if you fall out, and then bring that foot back. So it's just tap and return, which is very different than floppy, floppy, flap, flop, right? So that alone can be very helpful. Having said that, sometimes, you might feel like your hamstring or your calf is going to cramp up or something. So either, underdo or come out and do an opposite shape and then come back in. So when you're ready, we'll start with our big toes together. You might just take a moment and look at those amazing feet. I mean, they really are amazing. All these little bones, stuff like, how do these even carry us around? That's crazy. That's just nuts. See if you can talk to your toes and spread them out. We can have feet that are as able as our hands. I'll never forget a film that, a documentary that my dad took us to when we were kids, and it was a woman who had no hands, maybe no arms, and has been that way her whole life, and it shows her, she has raised children. It shows her opening a can of soup and preparing lunch. Yeah, and you're like, okay, I am not taking advantage of the fullness of who I am, clearly, right? What our bodies are capable of. So just in this moment, just have a sense that these feet have so much more intelligence and articulation in them than what we take advantage of and what we help cultivate. So for that moment, just sort of notice. In fact, if you look down and you kind of move, just even allow a little left and right, a little forward and back, and you see all the minuscule responses that your feet are making. And you can feel that without even looking. Sometimes the visual is profound. Okay, similarly, let's be amazed by these hands. Again, the loving kiss, palm to palm. You might have the thumbs at the sternum point, shoulder blades kind of tucking in towards the heart. So there's a broadening through the front. Light connection, tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth, easy neck. Squeeze those thighs to create that tree trunk, and see if you can kind of rise up out of the trunk. Feel that core vigor. And as you're ready, slowly lift one foot. You might even bring it off the floor entirely and flare those yoga toes. Maybe you're then setting it down into a quick kickstand, or sliding it up to the calf. And again, think about squeezing the thighs and glutes such that you can rotate that knee a little closer to 90. As you potentially wobble, and you might be aware of all the effort in the foot. As you fall out, you might be aware of your ability to lightly touch and return because you're so in your core. You might be aware of habits like tightening the neck or the tongue or the eyebrows, and just notice that they're there. Do your best to soften them. And let's hold for 3 more breaths on this side if you can. The breath is a slow, steady wave, regardless of whether we are standing or falling. In your own time, slowly switch. It might feel really good to roll out ankles. If you feel any low back pressure, you could do a little, excuse me, a little ragdoll before we come into the other side. So one thing to know, and therefore notice, if when you are having a hard time balancing, whether it's this pose or another, if you tend towards curling your toes down to grip, you're actually reducing your balance capacity. Because if you do that right now on purpose, you'll notice it lifts the ball of the big toe. Am I right? And you need that ball of the big toe is actually your anchor point. So it's not helpful. We don't want to do it, but people do it. And again, that's part of why having practicing that flare of the toes in this position, because again, much more intelligent and useful. As you're ready, and sense it spreading and rooting through the toes, all 4 corners of the feet, hand to hand, tongue to the roof of the mouth. Abiding breath. Sense of rising up from your foundation. And eventually coming onto the ball of the foot. And you might lift it clear off the floor to find that flare, and then either land it in kickstand or lightly plant it on the inside of the calf. And even if you are falling, hopefully it's in breath. Let's do just a couple more. Notice if you're kind of cocking into that standing hip at all. And instead, really squeeze towards center and rise up out of it, almost like you wished you could take off, but you kind of can't. You need that foot on the floor. And your own time release. It might shake it out, notice if you feel good. For me, it's almost always taking with these little wires, I'm into ragdoll and just doing some nice side to side. So we're going to be closing our practice with some breath awareness and some resting. I want to offer, I brought all the bolsters out in order to encourage the possibility of a couple of different resting poses that I'll show you. And then I also want to remind you the value of going with legs up the wall. That can be really incredible. You can have them straight up the wall in butterflies. It can be marvelous. And for the bolster, you guys are pretty much all familiar with this one, right? With butt on the floor and the ability to just be here again, in whatever leg position. There's also one called resting deer pose. And for that, you just kind of sit on your side of your hip here. I've got the block under the bolster so that it's a little bit inclined. And then I simply rotate against both hands to help myself gently settle down like so with my head turned to the side. And it can provide quite a stretch through the side if you're really tight. If that's the case, you might decide partway through our resting time, you want to switch so that you're not getting all bunched up on one side. We don't have quite the bolsters for everybody who's here, I think all but one. So everybody's one person if it's a bolster. Very one person choosing the wall, so that's simple. Two people choosing the wall. One. We invite us to enter our peaceful time with 3 sighing breaths. Again, a recognition to our nervous system that there's nothing to focus on, nothing to solve. So inhaling slow, deep and wide. Please tune in to your breath way. We're not going to do anything to manipulate the breath in these moments prior to our yogic rest, simply becoming a breath watcher. And you all have experience at this, so I'm hoping that you might become aware of more subtlety, where you're feeling the breath. The effects of the breath on your mental, physical being. invite you to recognize that the breath is a steady presence without need for us to direct it. And in this moment, with all the other things we are so grateful for, we might be simply grateful for our body's ability to breathe and therefore be vibrantly well. You might let your awareness slowly drift into your yogic sleep. With each exhale, the body becoming more deeply heavy and receptive. Just begin to make your slow journey back to the room that we share. The day that's ahead of you. And I invite you to tune into how you're feeling about the day that you're about to re-enter. Maybe a lovely time to identify at least one quality of today that you are feeling grateful for. It might be simply that you made time for this yoga practice. Maybe you're excited about watching storms. Maybe you're going to see someone you care about. I'm so grateful that you all came today to have this practice. I will miss you next week. Folks who are on Patreon, of course, will be receiving some video material. I did actually include a little yoga mini for all of you on my email that I sent out yesterday. So hopefully you got that. But it's on shoulder health. And, I know that we're about to get a little more active in different ways, springtime activities. So I thought, hopefully not a lot of shoveling first, but I was having to. I thought it might be helpful to have that under your belt. So please check that out and let me know what you think of it. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can subscribe and then you get notifications like when I put up a new video. And I'm going to be recording a lot more yoga videos and so on. So okay. Thanks, guys. Om Shanti Shanti. Om peace. Peace. Namaste.